What is debt? Simply put, debt is money that you pay for. Okay, now that sounds horrible. That would sound horrible to me my first year of dental school, because I feel like that sounds like a penalty. Like, why am I paying for something that really shouldn't cost so much, but now am I being penalized because I'm paying for it? But that's all debt is. It's money that you didn't have, and so you bought it, and the cost is interest. Simply put, debt is money that you pay for. My name is Bridget White, and I'm a dentist, I'm a mother, and an entrepreneur. I also teach dentistry at the University of Pennsylvania School of Dental Medicine. So for my students out there, hey guys, how are you? And one of the questions that I get from my students all the time is, how am I going to study with all of this debt, right? So I hear this question, and so I decided to share my experience with debt and how I really tackled one of my biggest financial hurdles, which was educational debt. So I'm going to go through 5 steps. There are 5 steps that I used, and I want to share them with you because I feel that it needs to, like everything else, there needs to be a systematic approach to educational debt. And the 5 steps are: define it, separate it, know it, plan it, and then finally own it. Okay, so we're going to go through those 5 steps one at a time, and I'm going to talk to you about how those steps can be organized so that you can reach your financial goals and actually get your healthy outcome, your abundantly wealthy life. So the first thing is to define debt, right? I wasn't a business major. Just to give you a little background on me, I majored in public policy at Princeton, and I didn't really study economics and business and wealth management, things like that. So debt was a term I knew, I was familiar with, but I didn't really understand how it applied to me as a student, right? So what is debt? Simply put, debt is money that you pay for. Okay, now that sounds horrible. That would sound horrible to me my first year of dental school, because I feel like that sounds like a penalty. Like, why am I paying for something that really shouldn't cost so much, but now am I being penalized because I'm paying for it? But that's all debt is. It's money that you didn't have, and so you bought it, and the cost is interest. Simply put, debt is money that you pay for. Now, the reality is that money that you pay for is separate. So that's the second step. You want to keep it separate from your academic experience, because technically debt is neutral. It has a value, but that's neutral with regards to your experience as a student. And so your academic experience needs to give you peace of mind. You need to be free of any additional stresses. It's important for you to maximize your time to master a skill set, build healthy relationships with students, faculty, patients, and also to enjoy a large portion of your life, whether it be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Many of our young age years are in school, and so you want to have peace of mind, and that's why it's important to separate the debt from your academic experience. Again, debt is neutral. It's living over there someplace. It's not worried about you, and so you need to focus on your priorities as a student. Now, that being said, you're going to go to school. Your debt doesn't care about your PATH exam. It doesn't care about your Crown Prep on number 14. It doesn't care about your spring break. It doesn't even care about, prepping for boards. It doesn't care about that. So once you've pursued all of that and you've reached your goals, you pass your boards, you get your license, go sit by the pool for a month. Now it's time for you to get to know your debt. Okay, this is like the dating period. This is when you really want to know all the details of that debt. First of all, you need to know the value, the amount. Like many of you, I was in school signing promissory notes, signing away. A little story at Penn, I remember our first year at dental school, they decided to change the mannequin heads. So they wanted the mannequin heads to be consistent with, I think the OSCE or one of the board exams. So we needed cheeks on our mannequin heads. So they rushed into our pre-clinic, our GRD lab, with promissory notes for mannequin heads and $800 for a mannequin head. That's an unforeseen cost, but that had to be purchased so I could pursue my degree. There's so many things that pop up. So those are things I didn't think about. So when it was time for me to get to know my debt, I was remembering all of those unforeseen costs, all of those fees and things that I paid for. But just to get back to focus, a good friend of mine, told me, how much do you owe? And I said, I don't know. I don't want to know it. The number could probably be so big. And that's why it was important. He encouraged me to really confront that number and know how much I owed. Okay, this is post-graduation. How much do you owe? Not what you borrowed, what you owe today. Okay, you want to know that number. You also want to know how many loans do you have. Okay, you're thinking it's one loan. No, it could be a number of loans. I actually ended up, I think it was about 15 loans. So those loans over time, I graduated from high school in 1996 and I graduated from dental school in 2007. So over 11 years, loans are bought, they're sold, they're refabricated, repackaged. They have to do with presidential administrations, federal policies. A lot goes on while you're in school studying with these loans. But now that you're getting to know these loans, you want to know all their details. How much you owe, how many loans you have. You want to know the terms of those loans, okay? Some loans have to be paid. I had one loan I had to pay for 8 years. I could not pay it off early. You want to know the interest rates. Are they fixed? Are they variable? You want to know if the loans can be combined or consolidated. That would be the best math. Consolidate your loans at a low interest rate. And then, of course, that's going to reduce the amount that you pay over time. So all of these factors are important as you get to know your loans. And just to give you information about me, like I said, I graduated from high school in 96. I went to Princeton. I got my 4-year degree from Princeton. And then I decided to be a dentist. So then I did my post-bac pre-health at Bryn Mawr College. And did you know that the government actually allows you to borrow undergraduate federal loans, right? So I was able to borrow money for a 5th year of school to actually do my pre-health sciences. And then I went to Penn for 4 years for the dental degree. So I went to school for 9 years and I graduated with $300,000. And I know many of you are thinking, oh, what, that's nothing, $300,000. But back then it was a healthy number. And again, it had to be paid. So now let's see, we've defined our debt. We have separated our debt. We know our debt. And again, where does that debt, stand with your life? Because now you're out of school. Maybe you're married. Maybe you bought a home, so you have a mortgage. Maybe you have credit card debt, right? So now you're looking at your student debt versus your the other types of expenses that you have in your life. And you can actually start to really look at student debt. Many student loans have low interest rates. I mean, a student loan ain't got nothing on a credit card when you think about double-digit interest. And so that's where you're trying to get organized. And the next step is to make a plan. So now it's your plan of action. How are you going to tackle these loans? You got all the information. You got all the information about how they are charging you. And now you want to step up and take ownership and devise a plan of action. And this is where it's kind of like a highway, right? You have 3 lanes, right? We all know those lanes. We'll start with the slowest lane. And I call this the stop, drop, and roll lane. Okay, this is where either you postpone payments, forbear them, and there's a fee associated with that, or figure out, another way to stop the wound. You want to put pressure, stop it from bleeding. And sometimes you're going to find yourself in this lane. Right now, we are still in a pandemic. Many things have happened. Many times you're going to find yourself with some unfortunate circumstances. Alert your lender as soon as possible. Okay, you want to get them all the information so they can stop a growing debt that you have already decided you're worthy of. Okay, so you have financed your education to develop a skill set to help the society. It's a transaction. Everybody wants you to meet your goals. So if you need to slow your loan payments, you do so. The next lane is where most of us find ourselves, right? I call it cruise control. It's minimum payment. I think the Biden administration is calling it income-driven repayment. And, it's going to get you to your destination, but it's going to take a minute. And in some cases, it can take decades. I was doing minimum payment when I first came out of school. I did not do a residency. I graduated from Penn and I went right to work. And then that first year, I learned a lot. It was a great year for me clinically. I had great mentors. Two were instructors from the University of Pennsylvania. I felt very comfortable. I better developed my skills. But I didn't earn a lot. I think I actually made less than the hygienist. But again, I was a new clinician and I was able to meet my minimum payments. So I'm in cruise control and getting my bearings. And in cruise control, you can do a lot of things. Remember, you're blossoming as an adult. One thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to live in Europe. I lived in Asia as a child. My mother is an international English teacher, and I traveled around the world, but I always wanted to live in Europe, and I was able to do so as a dentist. I was a contractor, a civilian contractor for the U.S. Army, for the Department of Defense, and I lived in Germany for 3 years. I had a great experience. I didn't earn a high income. I probably made similar to what a captain makes in the Army. You can look those numbers up. But I had a lot of benefits, many of the benefits that come with federal employment. I got paid leave, I got paid vacation, I had maternity leave, they reimbursed all my licenses, all my renewal fees, my continuing education. So when you're in school, you have a whole bunch of fees, but when you're actually practicing, you have fees as well. And that's where you have to organize yourself, because now you may be responsible for children and spouses and family members. And so this is where you still want to have an outlook of abundance, because you've already decided that you're in a noble situation and you want to live a fruitful life so that you can enjoy it. Okay, so that's where we are. We're in cruise control. You want to figure out ways. If I was able to have my employer pay for those expenses, that freed up money that I could actually pay to my loans. So whether it's a dental service organization, big corporation, the Army, the government, there are ways for you to still have a decent lifestyle, but have other expenses paid for. And then we're going to talk about the beast mode. Okay, this is called aggressive repayment. All right, this is where everybody really wants to be. I mean, you want to spend a little bit of time in aggressive mode if you're trying to get to the end point of paying off your educational debt. And the best way to aggressively pay is somebody else pays for it, right? That could be your parents, grandparents. Maybe there's an asset you acquired and you were able to transfer that to pay off your educational debt. But maybe that's not your circumstance. The other familiar idea of having the debt paid off aggressively is to join the military, okay? I have good friends who were commissioned in all service corps, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. Those all have commissioned positions for healthcare providers, specifically dentists. And I encourage you, if you know you're going to go that route, you want to sign up, you want to get all the information, align yourself with those organizations early on. As soon as you get to college, as soon as you've decided to go to dental school, right away, because you want to make sure that you get the full benefits of your commitment. And that commitment may begin the first day of school, right? You want to figure out all that information so you can have them aggressively pay off that debt. And then if you're not interested in the military, there are Uniform Commission, there's Public Health, there's Indian Health Service, National Health Service Corps. I alert you to HRSA, Health Resource Service Administration. They have government websites. They're on Instagram. You can find out information. I actually received a public health service award of $75,000. I worked in public health right here in Washington, D.C. For an organization called Mary Center. It's a nonprofit. I worked there for 4 years alongside a very diligent team. We worked really hard. It was just such a gratifying experience to help underserved populations. I earned a satisfactory income for the standard of living in Washington as a dentist, but I got a $75,000 reward. And that money was tax-free, no strings attached, literally directly given to the lender. There's nothing like that. When they get a check like that, they're happy, right? They're happy, you're happy. And what it does is reduces the amount that you owe, and also it's going to reduce the amount that you're projected to owe over time, because again, how are you paying? Interest. Okay, that's what you're being charged, the interest. So we've talked about defining our debt, separating our debt. We've talked about knowing our debt, planning our debt. And finally, I really want to talk about owning the debt, okay? Not in like a punitive way. It's not a punitive measure, right? It's actually, it's just how things work, right? Paying debt builds credit. So we live in a country that was born on debt, and debt is the name of the game. It's a capitalist democracy by definition. So everything is really about your ability to earn, your ability to pay. And one thing that you have to remember is you invested in a world-class education. I cannot say that lightly. That's really what should wake you up in the morning as a student. You invested in a skill set to help the society, right? So again, let's get back to our perspective of abundance. You've invested in yourself, you've invested in society, and you're developing a skill set to help people live longer, healthier lives. So bravo, that's a great decision. And that's where you're going to be rewarded for that decision, right? You're going to receive access to streams of income. You're going to be eligible for mortgages at lower rates or lower money down. You should look up doctor's mortgages, white coat mortgages, dentist mortgages, where you don't have to put so much down and you won't be charged penalties like maybe property mortgage insurance or things that come along with high mortgages, because the banks actually, you're an asset to a bank. They know that you have a skill set that's going to appreciate. They know you're probably going to work a long and healthy life. And also they want to give you a lifestyle that they feel is going to bring about happiness and a wealth of experience, so then you can go back and continue to help the society. It's very transactional. And I think it's important to always keep that in the back of your mind. And when you're studying and you're stressed out and you see these unforeseen costs, you start signing things away. Again, you put it over there, separate it, refocus, get back to your schoolwork, learn what you need to learn, and then years later, approach it with all of these steps in mind. And I just want to say, for me, my mom always says, clear the wreckage and wait for the next crisis, because the reality is student loans are not going to be your biggest hurdle in life. That's just not the way life works, okay? So sometimes they seem like this gloomy monster, but they're neutral. They're over there. They ain't worried about you. So you want to focus on school, learn your material, build your skill set, and then continue to live a fruitful and healthy and well life. I think that's something that we all are aiming for, and just living the best life possible.